All right, we're going to go ahead and call the Tuesday, October 20th Commission meeting to order. We're going to start with a moment of silent reflection for our first responders and members of the armed forces. That'll be followed by an invocation by Reverend Chris Coleman of Lutheran Church of the Redeemer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Peter D. O'Brien. If everybody would please rise and join me in a moment of silent reflection.
Let us open in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and this chance to gather together. We pray that you'd bless the County Commission as they work through the business of the day. Give them your godly wisdom, that they might make decisions that are for the benefit of all of our residents. All these things we lift up to you in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First item on our agenda is additions and deletions. Gentlemen, any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to request to move item 14D1 to it merely follow item 5A.
D1. All right. Any other additions or deletions?
Madam Chair, move approval. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Flesher with a second by Commissioner Zork. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And with that, we'll move on to proclamations and presentations. Our first is a presentation of proclamation honoring Bruce H. Colton, State Attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit, presented by Commissioner O'Brien to Mr. Colton. If you'd like to.
Bruce, why don't you come on up, and all the folks that are here to support Mr. Colton, come on and stand with him, please.
The whole room is coming.
You have quite the fan base, Mr. Colton.
I didn't know all these people were here. None of them were clients.
Let me check.
Let me check.
Bruce, I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, and then we've got a quick business item to take care of, then we'll love to hear some comments from you, okay? Sure. All right, very good. This is a proclamation honoring Bruce H. Colton, State Attorney of the 19th Judicial Circuit for the County of Indian River, Florida. Whereas the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners wishes to express its appreciation to Bruce H. Colton for his commitment to public safety and his dedicated service to all citizens as the State Attorney for the 19th Judicial Circuit. And whereas Bruce Colton was appointed as the Chief Assistant State Attorney for the 19th Judicial Circuit on January 1, 1974, and he was commissioned by Governor Bob Graham on October 19, 1985, to the office of State Attorney. And whereas Bruce Colton has appeared before the courts of the 19th Judicial Circuit to give voice to victims and to all citizens, where he faithfully, without prejudice or favor, enforced the laws of the great state of Florida, serving with unimpeachable integrity and dedication to the rule of law. And whereas Bruce Colton's unwavering dedication to the pursuit of justice has been demonstrated time and again by his zealous advocacy in the courtroom, where his eloquent oration has brought to heel numerous criminal defendants who have engaged in some of the most reprehensible and heinous criminal conduct. And whereas his peers and his constituency recognize Bruce H. Colton as a guardian and advocate for the citizens he has served. And whereas the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners wishes to honor and pay tribute to Bruce H. Colton for his distinguished service to the citizens of the 19th Judicial Circuit. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the board recognizes the outstanding contributions made to this community by Bruce H. Colton, adopted this 20th day of December 2020, and signed by all 5 county commissioners. And with that, Madam Chair, if we could take up item 14D1, please.
Of course.
This is under my matters. This is an agenda item dealing with activities at the courthouse. And I'd like to just read the subject matter of the commissioner's memorandum there. And the subject of this matter is consideration of the board to name the Indian River County Courthouse Rotunda to be known as the Bruce H. Colton Rotunda. And commissioners, as per our Administrative Policy Resolution 2011-042, any naming or dedication has to be sponsored by a county commissioner to bring it before the board. I have done that, so I would like to make the motion that we rename the Indian River County Courthouse Rotunda to be known as the Bruce H. Colton Rotunda, and that the county cover any fees or expenses with any type of dedication plaque or any type of cost like that.
All right.
And that's my motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner O'Brien with a second by Commissioner Flesher. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? Oh, anybody from the public would like to speak?
There's a lot of public. Everybody has a speaking part.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Smith, Clerk of the Court. And I can't think of a better person to name the rotunda after than Bruce. We've worked well together. His office is above reproach, and I commend you for taking this action, and I can't think of anybody better to name the rotunda after than Bruce Colton.
Thank you. Anybody else? We do have a motion. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. So Jason called me about 2 weeks ago and invited me to come here this morning because he said there was going to be a proclamation. And I asked him why, and he said, because we're finally getting rid of you. And, and I'm familiar with the proclamations, and they're nice, and I was honored and thrilled to have it. I didn't realize even the proclamation was going to be that detailed, but thank you. This other part has really taken me by surprise, and I couldn't figure out why everybody was here this morning, especially the people that came from other counties. And anyway, I did prepare a speech for the proclamation, and it was kind of long because I do talk a lot. And when I just realized, what a even bigger honor this is, I have a longer speech. But then I was looking at the agenda, and I realized how long the agenda was, and I know you really, you're honoring me, but you're not that much in all of me. I understand that. So anyway, I just want to say, first of all, to the commission, thank you. I can't tell you how much this means to me, how much I appreciate it. I'm still kind of in shock over the rotunda. You said 1974 was when I became an assistant state attorney, and I've been very lucky, and I never try to make a secret of that, and I'm not just being modest. Through the years, I've done well in this job, but I don't credit myself for it, and I've said this many times to other people. I have been so fortunate to have been associated with the people that I have in this office through the years who have for their own good have done a good job and have earned respect. For the people of our circuit have worked hard and earned respect, and for our office, and then kind of took me along for the ride, because when they did well, it looked good for me. And I have been extremely fortunate to have people like David Morgan, who worked for the office for so long and who set such an example for the young prosecutors and for law enforcement, and Tom Walsh, who was here, prosecuted mainly in St. Lucie County, and the guys and girls that are here today and have been with this office for several years. Tom Backadall, who I'm sure you all know is going to be taking over when I leave, has been with us for 29 years and has been a shining example of what a prosecutor should be. The heads of our 4 offices are here, and none of them are new to the office. They train the lawyers. They make sure that things go right. And all of this helps me makes me look good. So this rotunda should be named for all these people and not just for me. But I really do appreciate it. This really is a great honor. I couldn't have done it without these people and without my family, who's been behind me all these years and who makes my life wonderful, actually. And many of them are here today. That's why we weren't socially distancing, because we get together several times a week as it is. But anyway, I won't drag on anymore. Just thank you all very much. Thank you all for being here. Whoever was behind this, I'll find out. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Bruce, hold up just a minute. Madam Chair, just a comment. I was talking to a couple of ladies who got here early, and we started naming off how many current judges came through Bruce Colton's office. And I think we lost count around 12 or somewhere. And so it just goes to show, I think, what a great job his office has done. And as these young men and women come through the ranks in law enforcement, and then they get into the law end of it, and then prosecutor's office, and then they become outstanding members of our community and judges. I think it's just a real tribute to Mr. Colton, what he's done. Secondly, Bruce, I'm going to go ahead and rat out who it was that did all this.
Uh-oh.
And I've been working with Judge Morgan quite a bit on this, and so Judge Morgan and I had a bunch of calls going back and forth, and we're trying to keep this all secret and stuff. Yeah. Well, right in the middle of all that, I get a call from Mr. Colton, and he goes, "Hey, did you know that Judge Morgan is retiring?" And I said, "Yeah, I read that, I heard that." And he goes, "Well, listen, there's a broom closet on the 3rd floor that I want to rename for Judge Morgan." So we'll get that done, Bruce. We'll be right on top of it.
To drag on, but if I can for just a minute. It doesn't surprise me that David Morgan was behind this. David and I, when David was with the office, we tried several first-degree murder cases together, he and I. And of course, I was in charge, so it meant he did all the work and fed me what I needed to do and say. So when we walked in this morning, he said to me, "Do you have a speech prepared?" And I said, "No, I didn't know you were going to be here, but I figured since you're here, you brought my speech for me." And now that he doesn't work for me anymore, he said, "Sorry, bud, you're on your own." But thank you, David.
So, Bruce, come on up and get your proclamation here. And anybody come on up, get behind him, get a picture taken.
I want the whole crowd come off.
Yeah, half of you need to come on this side. And
Yeah, we could do that. They said, "Look, he left doing that terrible thing."
no.
We won't be offended. All All right. So our next presentation is going to be a presentation of Fire Medic of the Year, awarded by Chief Todd Stone, Director of Emergency Services. Chief, welcome.
Today, we're here to honor our chosen fire medic of the year, and there's been a long tradition in the fire service of identifying those that have made a tremendous contribution, even though it may have been in a relatively short period of time. And there we go. And historically, it's been the firefighter of the year, the paramedic of the year, but because our job is fire rescue, it is paramedics, the paramedic section of it, it is the firefighter section of it, we have updated that to the fire medic of the year. Now, the fire service goes way back, especially in the United States. The first organized fire services were in ancient Rome, but in the United States, the fire service really kicked off, and Benjamin Franklin actually is noted as the beginning, founder of the fire service. But Ben had an alternate plan. Ben also owned the insurance companies, which owned the fire companies, so he was protecting his own assets. But what is amazing, and most people don't realize, is the fire business, this end of the business, was not the first to come. The first thing that actually happened in the United States actually happened in 1631 in the city of Boston, and that's where the first fire codes came out. So when you start complaining about the codes, go all the way back in history and then look at Dave Johnson back there in the back. So the EMS service, though, doesn't have that long history. I can remember I grew up in North Florida, Northeast Florida, and I can remember when the funeral homes were actually running the ambulance services up in the Jacksonville area, and fistfights actually took place between the ambulance crews when they got on scene as to who was going to get the patient or the body, which was actually more profitable. But prior to 1970, there really wasn't a whole lot of regulation in the United States, and that's when the Federal Department of Transportation came out with their curriculum on EMTs and where that system went to. And I actually was in Putnam County. For those of you that don't know, that is the unknown cultural mecca of Northeast Florida. But we still had it back as late as 1989 or 1990, still had a funeral home running ambulance services in the south end of that county through the Crescent City, Pomona Park area. Okay. October 18th of 2005, the board actually combined the two systems. So we had firefighters on one side of the street, we had the paramedics on the other side of the street. Actually, that was combined into a single rank structure. Even since my short tenure here, which has been about 2.5, 3 years now, there was still that divide within the department. And we've done everything that we can and continue to do to eliminate that divide. It is a fireman. You are a fire medic. You're not just an EMS person. You're not just a fire person. Okay. And once again, one of the things that we've been trying to overcome is that neither one of these plays second fiddle to the other one. It's an awful lot of training that goes into it to get your fire certification, and even more training that goes into it to get your paramedic certifications. Once again, continuous training. We never slow down on the training aspect of it. We're always doing additional work, additional advanced equipment's going out into the field. As a matter of fact, we've got new equipment that's going out into the field. It's very expensive today, going into all the stations. And once again, we're happy to have new people that are coming onto our department and making a big difference for us. I think that what most people don't realize is that when a fire truck responds, a lot of people ask us, why in the world do you send a fire truck on an ambulance call? Well, number one, ambulances are usually tied up. They're actually on another call someplace else in the county. But the fire truck actually carries everything that ambulance does except for the stretcher. They can go in, do the advanced cardiac life support issues, stabilize the fractures, administer the oxygen, start the IVs, do all those things before the ambulance gets there. And We would like to introduce to you David Osgood, as our fire medic of the year. And let me give you just a little bit of history about Dave. He was born in Orange Park, Florida, and when he was in the 4th grade, he moved to Vero Beach with his parents, and his parents are in the audience with us today. There's Mom, there's Dad, there's wife Sophia, there's Colton in the back, so we have the whole family here. He's an Eagle Scout. He graduated from John Carroll High School, and he started college aiming for a career in the armed forces, and then he changed his mind and moved back home. Supported by his parents and inspired by the local fire rescue crews, he volunteered his time at, assisting at Station 4 and racked up over 1,000 hours of ride time before he was even hired with us. That's when he decided he wanted to become a fire medic. His performance appraisals have been exemplary. A few comments. In 2017, Lieutenant wrote, Osgood was able to complete his paramedic program while also learning department protocols at the same time. 2018, although he has 2 years of experience, in my opinion, he's one of the better paramedics in this department due to his ability as a leader and an instructor. In 2019, his evaluation indicated Osgood has been instrumental in training and less experienced personnel both on calls and at the station level. His peers and his supervisors, considering all of his hard work, all the effort that he has put into it, I'm honored to introduce to you David Osgood.
Thank you, Chief. Dad, I should have listened, taken a public speaking class in college, because I am not very good at this. Everybody who's wearing the same uniform I am today has had a significant impact in where I am and how I got here. Even Lieutenant Bernstein, who showed up on his day off just to be here for this. Thank you guys, everybody who put in for this and recommended me. I appreciate it. And thank you guys very much.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations.
You guys want to come get a picture?
We'll get Mom, Dad, wife, and son in the first one, and then we'll bring all the crew down.
What is that? Yes.
Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations, sir. You want to do the... Second wave is coming. Hey. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, no, that's, Uncle Tim will do that.
I got the charm.
So we truly have a great team, and it's very nice. It seems as if this young man was just crossing the bow lines at a pitting ceremony, and he's achieved this great success. But I think, Chief, if you had to, you'd just about award every one of your individuals, because we have the greatest in any River County. And for someone who's with us just such a short time to receive this honor, we are very fortunate and blessed. It's your leadership, and it's all of these men and women who are at the ready each and every day. So thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right, our next proclamation or presentation is going to be a presentation of proclamation for Lights On After School. This is going to be presented by Commissioner Zork to multiple agencies within the county. So if you guys would like to come on up, I think we have representatives from Boys and Girls Club, Crossover Mission, Daisy Hope, and Feed the Lambs. And I apologize if I missed anybody. Commissioner Zork?
I'll give him a minute to make it up to the podium. I'll read the proclamation, and if one or all of you'd like to share a few words about your organization, that would be great. This is a proclamation, Lights On After School. Whereas the Boys and Girls Club of Indian River County, Crossover Missions, Daisy Hope Center, Feed the Lambs, and the Gifford Youth Achievement Center stand firmly committed to quality after-school programs and opportunities because they provide safe, challenging, and engaging learning experiences that help children develop, foster social, emotional, physical, and academic skills, support working families by ensuring their children are safe and productive after the regular school day ends, build stronger communities by involving students, parents, business leaders, and adult volunteers in the lives of young people, thereby promoting positive relationships among youth, families, and adults, and engaging families, schools, and community partners in advance of the welfare of our children. And whereas the aforementioned organizations have provided significant leadership in the area of community involvement in the education and well-being of our youth, grounded in the principle that quality after-school programs are vital to helping our children become successful adults. And whereas Lights On After School, the national celebration of after-school programs held this year on October 22nd, 2020, promotes the importance of quality after-school programs in the lives of children, families, and community. And whereas more than 28 million children in the U.S. have parents who work outside the home, and 15.1 million children have no place to go after school. Many after-school programs across the country face funding shortfalls so severe that they are being forced to close their doors and turn off their lights. And whereas the Boys and Girls Club of Indian River County, Crossover Missions, Daisy Hope Center, Feed the Lambs, and the Gifford Youth Achievement Center urges the citizens of Indian River County to ensure that every child has access to a safe, engaging place where the lights are on after school. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the Board of County Commissioners enthusiastically endorses Lights On After School and is committed to innovative after-school programs and activities that ensure the lights stay on after the doors, lights stay on and the doors stay open for all children after school. Adopted this 20th day of October 2020 and signed by all 5 county commissioners. Good morning. Good morning. Who would like to go first?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Angela Perry, Executive Director of the Gifford Youth Achievement Center. I'd like to thank the County Commissioners for recognizing Lights On After School, for recognizing the important work that all of us do to improve the lives of the students and families that we serve. I want to thank the County Commissioners for their financial support. We couldn't do the work without the support that we received from the county. So again, I want to say thank you on behalf of GYAC and the students and families we serve.
Good morning, and thank you for the award. I have a message for you guys from the kids at Daisy Hope. We're located in Wabasso, and we serve kids ages 5 to 18. And since the pandemic started, there's a lot of kids that take classes at the center virtually through this computer who don't have them at home. Well, this morning, I have to go up and open the building at 6:55 because they come in at 7:15, so I was getting ready to leave. I said, okay, I want you guys to settle down and everything. So where are you going? I said, I got to go to a meeting at the county. You didn't feed us. Tell them we didn't have breakfast. So I delivered the message. But thank you, and thank you for your help to all of us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I know Freddie wants to say something.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kenya May. I'm with Feed the Lambs Enrichment Program. We want to thank you for, taking that time to keeping the lights on for our youth, because we have a lot of youth out there that's still struggling. and it's hard for the parents also. So we just want to thank you.
Morning.
Morning, Freddie.
As I think about this proclamation, it reverts back when I was a child a long time ago, when they used to have what they call on houses front porch. Remember the front porch from the houses? And those front porches on those houses were symbolic not only in their physical sense, but also in the nurturing of the neighborhood youth. It served as a light that you knew that when you got in front of Miss Gutschew's house, that she's gonna make sure that your mama find out what you did and what you didn't do, where you went and where you didn't go. So this whole concept of this proclamation, to me, ignites and rejuvenates that light to let that child know you may not have that type of family structure at home because mom is working, dad is away, but guess what? Gifford Youth Achievement Center, Daisy Hope, Feed the Lambs, Crossover Mission, and other agencies like that, we are shining that light. And that light is more indicative today than ever before that it's necessary to give a child the guidance that they need in life. So I thank you so much, County Commissioners, for your support over the years. We've been hooked at the hips, and you're not going to get rid of us. We're going to be here together. So continue to join hands together to help our kids to be the best that they can be. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Antoine Jennings, co-founder of Crossover Mission. It's my partner, Kathy DeShower. We just want to say again, share the same sentiment as everybody else here before. I'm glad I had the opportunity to go last so they could say all the important stuff. But again, we just want to say thank you for collaborating with us. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for empowering us to do the work in the community, especially during these troubling times in COVID when it seems as if the world has stopped. But the need continues to go forward. The kids really need us, the parents really need our support and our guidance and the structure and everything during these times. Most importantly, I would like to say thank you for the relationship. I think that nothing gets done without the relationships with y'all and without the people in the community and with everyone you see here, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning. I'm Kathy DeShower, co-founder of Crossover Mission. I would like to echo what Antoine and the group said. I'm really honored to be part of this elite group of people who've been doing this work for years. It's been a walk for me personally to be involved in Crossover, to be educated on the realities here in our community, to be honored to walk down the road with kids who need support. And again, we do thank you all. We're making strides at Crossover to move into a new building, and we're very much excited about that possibility, and we thank you all for your support in that end.
Thank you. Thank you all for what you do in our community for our kids. It's vastly important, and we're happy to partner with you guys as much as we can.
Madam Chair, we have a number of recipients and we have one proclamation, so we're going to have to work on getting some additionals made, but if
Yeah.
you'd like to come up for a photo, we'll
We'll
hand
make sure
out
everybody
one and
gets
we'll
a
get the
copy.
others for you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
When he started.
So who would like to hold the one that we have, and we'll get some extra.
And Antoine, I want to tell you something. Normally, you let Freddie speak at the end. This way you get enough time to, no, oh. Sometimes he says good afternoon at the end of the presentation.
There we go.
Wait.
Congratulations to all of you for everything you do. No, you can keep that.
No, we'll produce
We'll get other ones
for
for everybody
everybody.
else.
How many we're gonna need?
I think we need 4 more.
Four?
Yeah, we'll make sure everybody gets one. Thank you.
Get out the pens.
All right, there are no minutes for approval. There is one informational item I'd like to highlight. We have a proclamation honoring Jeffrey Hoffman on his retirement from Indian River County Board of County Commissioners, Department of Public Works, Road and Bridge Division, with 15 years of service. So congratulations to Mr. Hoffman, and we wish him well in his retirement. And with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody need to pull anything from consent? Anybody from the public wishing to pull anything from consent? Seeing none,
Madam
Commissioners?
Chair, move approval.
I have a motion by Commissioner Flesher with a second by Commissioner Zork. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the next item is Indian River County Clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller Jeffrey R. Smith, applications for citizen member to the Value Adjustment Board.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to defer to Dylan, and he's going to
Okay,
summarize the agenda item today. Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you very much. Per Section 194.015 Florida statutes, the Value Adjustment Board has 2 citizen members, one of whom is appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. This person must own homestead property in the county and may not be a member or employee of any of the taxing authorities, and also may not represent property owners in cases of property taxes. Jim Kordiak was appointed to the Code Enforcement Board several months ago and submitted his resignation from VAB, and we right now have 2 applications that have been submitted to fill the now vacant position on Value Adjustment Board. County Attorney's Office recommends that the board consider the 2 applications and determine whether to appoint someone to fill the vacancy. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. And I have a question. I honestly did not realize that this was an open position. Is that something we need to fill today, or is that, I just want to make sure we've given people time to apply.
So I spoke with Terry yesterday in the clerk's office. She said it's not absolutely needs to be done today. We've got, if the board so chose, we could certainly take some more time before filling it right away.
But it was publicly noticed.
The vacancy's been posted for a while.
Well, I know that there's a time schedule for what the work that the board does. So that's why I was asking. I wasn't sure if this was something we need to go ahead and do or whatnot.
Well, we are a little shorthanded, and there will also be a transition as we are having a transition here on the board as well. So we would like to get the board into a position. We do have a meeting coming up, and we are short at this point.
I would defer to, since you're the one of the county representatives on that board. So.
Well, Madam Chair, thank you. And we'll be bringing another board member from the commission as per guidelines. But in looking at the applications and resumes, I don't know if you feel that you would like to delay it.
I wasn't aware that there was an opening, but I defer to those that serve on the board.
Well, at this point, yes, we do want to get everything in order as quickly as possible. We don't meet all that often, and we are also pensioned upon the property appraiser and all of the filings that the citizens do take into appeal. And we have magistrates that have to be aligned. So at that case, we would like to move forward if it pleases the board. And I'd like to, after looking at the resumes, I'd like to nominate, appoint, recommend Joseph L. George for the position. And looking at both of the applicants, I do see a tremendous wealth of knowledge in both of the applicants, but that is my recommendation. And
That was emotional. Second.
That'll be fine. Do we have any further discussion? Anybody from the public? All right, we do have a motion by Commissioner Flesher with a second by Commissioner O'Brien. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and welcome, Mr. George. And with that, we will move on to public notice items.
Thank you very much. We have a notice of a public hearing, which will be scheduled for October 28th. This will be a special call meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, and will be to consider the adoption of an ordinance to create a new section under Chapter 1100, Economic Development Ad valorem tax exemption for PCP Tactical LLC. This will be a legislative item, and again, that will be for our special call meeting scheduled for October 28th at 2 p.m. Additionally, there is a notice of a public hearing which will be scheduled for November 3rd. This will be consideration of a zoning ordinance which will be for approximately 19.32 acres located roughly 870 feet west of 66th Avenue and north of 16th Street from RM6 multifamily residential district up to 6 units per acre to RM8, which is multifamily residential district up to 8 units per acre. This will be a quasi-judicial item, and again, this will be a public hearing scheduled for November 3rd, 2020. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to County Administrator's Matters. Our first item is the 2021 Florida Legislative Session Priorities, and I see Brian headed up, so Brian will be handling this. So,
yes,
welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Brian Sullivan, Legislative Affairs and Communications Manager. We wanted to bring the preliminary 2021 legislative agenda before the board today to just kind of have a discussion about it and obviously get any insight from the commissioners about any other potential issues that they see that would be relevant to the county this year up in Tallahassee. So the way that this process works is bring this item before you with a preliminary list to start the discussion, and then hopefully the board would direct staff to go back and, based on the conversation today and any recommendations, update this preliminary list and bring it back to the board at a later date for approval. So first, I'll start off with some dates for the 2021 legislative session. A session is scheduled to begin on March 2nd. The committee weeks will likely begin in the early part of January. Session is scheduled to end on April 30th, and obviously that could be extended. The legislative delegation meetings, so far I checked yesterday, there's only been one that has officially been scheduled, but it was scheduled for the mid-December. So that kind of gives you a general timeline of when those delegation meetings are going to start happening. And more counties, especially after the election, should be really getting that ball rolling. So I believe that Senator Mayfield's office has the responsibility to set up that meeting this year. Each year they alternate. So we will continue working with them on anything that they may need logistically, and obviously keep in communication about when that date may be. So as you can see in your backup, some potential items for this year. Many are similar to previous years, some things that we hadn't gotten taken care of or that we continue to fight every single year. One of those would be vacation rentals. Obviously, that bill gets filed every single year in Tallahassee, hasn't crossed the finish line in a few years. So I'm sure that will come back up again. Obviously, with new leadership and new committee assignments and things like that, you never really know, at least at this point, what the appetite for an issue like that will be up in Tallahassee, but that's one that we will obviously always have on our agenda. Another one that's relatively new, that is an initiative that's been brought about really into the forefront because of the coronavirus pandemic, is broadband internet service providers and how we can expand the availability of effective and efficient broadband internet service in the county. For many years, the focus has been on rural areas with this issue, but with so many people working from home or children going to school from home, it's really highlighted that it's not just rural areas, but also underserved areas as well, and really getting that internet service to those communities so parents can work from home and the kids can have sufficient internet to go to school from home is very important. And that's an issue that I think that I would recommend including it within the issues this year, and I believe it's one, too, that the legislature will have some appetite to take up. It's an issue that affects every single part of the state, whether it's rural or urban areas, and so that's going to be one that's very important. And then just some background on the broadband initiatives. Last year, the legislature passed a bill that created the Office of Broadband within the Department of Economic Opportunity. So obviously, they've been pretty busy within the past few months working on the unemployment system and things like that. So, their attention may have been diverted, but that did pass last year. This year, I would expect that some more initiatives may come out to expand the ability of that office to really start implementing programs and working with local governments and interested stakeholders to get those moving. Another issue that is a consistent issue on our legislative agenda is affordable housing. Last year, as many may remember, the Sadowski Trust Fund was funded fully and then vetoed in the budget. Obviously, they seem to redirect some CARES money into affordable housing initiatives, but that's one, too, that with the economic distress that the pandemic has caused, that likely will be a very, very big issue up there, as it is every single year, but the focus should be even more so. Last year, we took care of a biosolids item, the land application of biosolids that was on our agenda. So we have now, there's law and there's a statute in place that protects our ability to continue extending our biosolids moratorium within the county. Kind of the next potential step related to biosolids is support of a biosolids pilot program, and this would be an attempt to utilize new and evolving technology in order to process biosolids. This is one where there's been some discussion on that last year. It's a quite heavy lift. The expense of the program is quite heavy. However, this is obviously a very important issue to us, especially as we always work to protect the water quality and the Indian River Lagoon. So this would be a good recommendation to have, and it really continues our work in the biosolid space, and it works to improve even more on the work that we've done in the past. Indian River Lagoon water quality issues are always a continuing priority for us, so that we should, obviously, that will remain in our agenda. And then high-speed rail, obviously this has been a big issue for our community in the past few years. Last year, the bill received its first committee hearing that it ever had gotten in the Senate. It didn't go anywhere in the House. And this is one where the bill itself is a pretty big lift, but last year you definitely got to see some movement on it and some more attention being placed on that issue. And so this one obviously is probably going to continue to be introduced this upcoming session, and one that we should continue focusing on. So kind of some background on my intuition about what is going to happen up in Tallahassee. They have some very big issues that they're going to be dealing with and that they're going to be focused on. You're going to have the unemployment system. I'm sure that there's going to be a very comprehensive overhaul of that and a lot of attention focused on that. You're going to have, in my opinion, a lot of focus on the authority of the executive branch as well as local governments during states of emergencies. That may be a big push to take a look at those statutes, and so that's one that we would be interested in as it relates to the authority of local governments during states of emergencies, and that's something that every county in the state, as well as the Association of Counties and League of Cities, will be very focused on. Another big piece of legislation that they will be focused on up in Tallahassee this year is the governor's criminal justice initiative relating to protests and criminal activities, potential criminal activities during protests. Now, we haven't seen exactly what that legislation may look like, but it's something that will take up a lot of time and energy up there, and it's something that will bring robust debate and a lot of input. So these are three things that have really been highlighted within the past 6 or 7 months with things going on in the world, as well as the coronavirus pandemic that has also struck us. So the attention, I believe, on additional proactive legislation may be a little bit tougher than previous years, because there's really going to be a lot of time spent on some very, very big and important issues. And obviously, in the coronavirus pandemic and the impacts that it's had on the state's revenues, money is going to be very tight. You've kind of seen a trend within the past few years anyways, that they seem to be wanting to get away from so many member projects in the budget, and instead they seem to want to fund pools of money for specific departments and agencies that can then be transferred to appropriate projects for local communities. And I think this year you'll see even less member projects, because the money will be extremely tight. So that's going to be definitely a factor when we decide which appropriations requests we may want to bring to the legislature. Last year, we received $750,000 for the North Sebastian Septic to Sewer project. So, generally, any projects that are related to water quality are going to be a good potential project to get funded. And then also this year, just in my opinion, if there's any type of emergency management or emergency response initiatives that we can think of proposing for an appropriations request, that would also kind of tie into the theme of this upcoming session. Another aspect of our legislative program is to bring a recommended, or have the board create a designated point person and alternate for our issues. So once this agenda and once these priorities are created and adopted, then the board can deliberate and consider which members and which commissioners would like to potentially be a point person or an alternate for those issues. So that's just something to keep on your radar as we continue working through this process. And that's all I have.
All right, are there any questions for Brian?
One comment, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brian, for summarizing all that. Under the SHIP program, the State Housing Funds, one of the proposed policies for the Florida Association of Counties is seeking to have the ratio of money available either for home purchase or rental assistance freed up a little bit to have more flexibility, because some counties are finding that their housing costs are so high that there's just no potential to use SHIP funds for any home purchase, and they think they would have better use of those funds on the rental assistance side. And so just kind of keep that in mind, and the fact final policy meeting to the first week in December, and that'll get finalized then, but just something for the board to kind of keep in mind. I haven't talked to our staff to see, how we would prefer it, but I think if it's just, allows up to, and a little bit more flexibility, then counties can go either way, whichever suits their individual county the most. But anyway, just kind of keep that in mind going forward. And then I assume there's going to be some type of special session in November to look at the current budget. Is that still happening, do we think, or not?
I have not heard anything further on that. Obviously, they have to get through the elections and see how the makeup of the
Right.
legislature may change and may be affected. But I have not heard anything definitive on them going up for a special session at all.
Okay, because I know, back when we were first talking with the school district about their referendum, they thought that the current year funding was safe, but, next year's funding would be 10 or 20% cut. But now I think I'm hearing them talk that they may have a substantial cut in the current funding year. So it just seems like they're going to have to come back at some point and see where their budget is after all that's gone on. But anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, that's all good information. I'm glad to see that broadband internet's on our list this year. Vitally important, as you said, not only in the rural areas, but in our more urban areas as well. I think that's really come to the forefront. And not only for distance learning and working from home, but for some of our agribusinesses that want to expand in our more westerly areas, they're having a very hard time of moving their headquarters because those infrastructures aren't available for them. So I'm glad to see that there because it is an economic development tool as much as it is a learning tool. And obviously Indian River Lagoon being on the list is always good. And I believe they're making some progress on a federal level with some funding there through the Water Act that's going through right now. But I think the list looks great. I think I look forward to, I don't know, I shouldn't say that so happily, but I do look forward to the legislative session, even though it's probably going to be a little bit crazy this year based on what's going on with CARES Act and COVID and the budget. But I think it'll be interesting. It's going to be very important for us to stay engaged because I do agree some of the issues related to emergency states of emergency and our local powers there are going to be called into question. And so we are going to need to make sure we stay engaged in those conversations. So thank you for that. Anybody else? No? Anybody from the public? Seeing none? Thank you, Brian, for the update.
Thank you.
Is this going to come back in November for the final list? Or are we going to wait till December? What's
And obviously, that's, you know,
up to
up to Jason.
Okay. I was just curious on, because I'm sure that some of us might have some extra feedback as we think about these lists moving forward, so.
Right, yeah, we'd like to work on this a little bit more. Maybe first meeting of December might be a good time to bring the final back, and happy
It
to
might be
have.
good to bring it back after the FAC. Commissioner O'Brien, what do you think?
I think so. That'd be very good with me, yeah.
Conference?
Okay, after fact.
So that's
Maybe the second meeting.
Second meeting in December. That kind of gives us some direction of what they're working on as well.
Mhm.
Is that too late for you?
I think that works. I think, you know, we like to have the preliminary one so we can
Right.
go to FAC and advocate for things, and then we can get it finalized, you know, pending anything that happens at FAC for the rest of the legislative session, basically.
Okay, fantastic.
And for last year, that's how that process worked.
Was it? Okay.
'Cause I remember I came on board in September 12th, and then the FAC conference was shortly after that, and Jason had already presented the preliminary agenda, and then I presented the final agenda after
Okay.
that conference.
Since the time frame changes every year based on session,
Yeah.
I forget every year. All right, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to utility services. The first item is Shadowbrook Subdivision Proposed Water Assessment Project Resolution 1 and 2. Welcome, Vinny.
Morning. Thank you. For the record, Vincent Burke, Director of Utility Services. We have a short PowerPoint presentation to run through this agenda item. So how did we get here? Back on February of 2020, staff received a petition to have an assessment project in their neighborhood. We brought that to the board on July 7th, in which the board authorized staff to begin the design process. And so today's subject agenda is to go over Resolution 1, the providing, and Resolution 2 to set the time and place of a public hearing. That's tentatively set for December 8th of 2020. In your agenda packet, this is attachment number 1, showing the area to be serviced with the benefiting property owners. We have a 6-inch water main that will be tapped off 58th Avenue that runs north-south on the east side or right-hand side of the screen to run into the 34th lane off of 34th Street. So you'll notice that most of the folks, not all, but most of the folks are in favor of this process. There's a total of 15 properties that will be benefiting. There's 1 no vote, and then there's 2 that are already existing customers that signed a temporary service agreement, which in essence says if and when the county does have a petition process or a project such as this, they will be voting in favor, so we count that as a yes. Initial costs are about $126,000 for the project cost. Divided that over equally of the 15 properties equates to an $8,400 per parcel cost. Note that this is only for the construction of the pipe. It does not include some of the connection costs, such as the water impact fee, deposit, and meter fees. So, we typically like to have this out for potential folks just to know what it's going to cost. Note that we do bill on an annual rate for some of the installments, but we like to just break it down so everything's equal. So consumption based on the new recently approved 1.54% increase for about 5,000 gallons a month, typical for a family of 2 to 3 is about $20.42. Included with the capital cost broken out over a 10-year period, 120 months, $88, just over $88, and then the water impact fee, which is not part of the $8,400 pipe cost, is about $24.38, so about $132 if people choose to finance that. Note that this is based on the rate that was set forth this January by the board, 4.75%, although in the resolution, the rate that would be charged for the abutting property owners would be at the time that the project is closed out. I just use that for illustration purposes. Moving forward, we have tentatively, if the board approves, set the public hearing on December 8th. If the board approves this item today, which staff is recommending, we will send out mailing notification to all the benefiting property owners so that they are aware of this process, so they can come to the board to speak in favor of or against the project. And so staff recommends that the board adopt Resolution 1, providing for the installation of the water main within Shadowbrook subdivision, subject to the terms outlined in the attached resolution. The Board of County Commissioners shall establish the applicable rate at the time the final assessment rule is approved, and then secondarily adopt Resolution 2, setting the time and place of the public hearing to be held here in the chambers on Tuesday, December 8th, 2020 at 9:05 a.m. I'm available for any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Burke?
No, ma'am.
No? All right. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this? Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Welcome.
Good morning. I am hi Commissioners, excuse me. I'm a homeowner in the Shadowbrook Assessment Water Program. We just wanted to kind of show up and show our support for this. I know some of the individuals in the community have sent some emails out and other things supporting this project. This has been a long-going process, so we're very interested in pushing it through, and just wanted to show our support. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Larry Cherry, I'm the actual point of contact for the community in this water assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioners? What is your pleasure?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Flesher with a second by Commissioner O'Brien. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And with that, we'll move on to utility accounts receivable bad debt. Mr. Burke.
Utility accounts receivable bad debt. I thought Commissioner Slaughter would be here for this particular one, but a little bit disappointed he's not here to see all the great spreadsheets we have in our agenda item and available. So we're about to,
We might be able to get him on the phone.
perhaps. So the board tasked staff earlier this year to come back when Mr. Brody Williams appeared before the board citing the unnecessarily heavy accrued delinquency fees and charges that had piled up on a particular property that they acquired at a tax deed sale. We always encourage folks to do their due diligence prior to obtaining their property. In this case, he was not aware of the high charges and fees that had grown up on the account. And so the board took into consideration those comments and then sent us back to do some homework. So there was a lot of information with respect to the what we're calling bad debt. And so we tried to break it out into three main categories. The first is water and sewer accounts that were connected at one time to the county utility system. We have 131 of those. You can see in the chart before you. The total outstanding debt broken out between the principal or base service availability charges and then the accrued penalties and interest on the right-hand side of the screen. We have 14 impact fee loans and 150 water assessment for the amounts that are shown here. So in total, just over $3 million in total outstanding debt, just under $1 million in the base or service availability charges. So if we dive into the water and sewer accounts, you'll notice that most, but not all, are residential. There's 4 commercial accounts. 84 of those particular properties have improvements or they have structures on them. Again, we broke out the number of water and sewer ERUs with respect to the accounts and included that just for illustration purposes. The impact fee loans, there's 14 of those. The total outstanding debt, is $95,000. The penalties and interest about $61,000, and the base is about $34,000. The third category would be the assessments, 150 of those, and you can see the amount total outstanding versus base and penalties. So with respect to the issues, I kind of just wanted to go into the water and sewer accounts. While we have 84 structures, some of these are over 24 months, and in essence, they're looking to find a way to come up with a way to make these things whole, to either bring the account current and reserve or retain their investment, in which case they would be looking to keep their account current, or to perhaps bring the account current and maybe turn in or relinquish those ERUs so that they don't have ongoing monthly service availability charges that continue to accrue. And so we've recommended two different options. One is to kind of have a 90-day time period in which the county would waive all penalties and interest on those water and sewer accounts to make the account whole, to bring the account current. If they've accumulated over 24 consecutive months of charges. The second is to be able to spread those or amortize those payments over a 12-month period, although we just wanted to make sure that we would at least waive 90% of all those, so there might be a slightly higher charge. We tried to provide one example for a particular account that was in the agenda packet. In essence, the total amount owed was just over $67,000. Payment one at the top of the screen would be about $8,500 for the 90-day if they paid in full. But if they chose to do payment two at the proposed 90% option, it would be more like a $14,500 payment that could be amortized over a 12-month period. The third item that you see on the bullet here is to direct staff to work with the county's attorney's office to pursue any foreclosure on those properties that have owners that do not take advantage of either option one or two, write off the accounts receivable balance, and release the lien on the property, and then direct staff to establish a policy going forward to avoid delinquent accounts that are approaching the 24-month deadline. You may recall that we've had ordinances that were put in place for the reserve ERUs. We would like to then have a similar fashion for those accounts that had been connected at one time, are connected, that we have a stopgap measure put in place at 24 months so that these don't continue to snowball and continue to accrue as such that has caused us to be in this particular predicament. For the impact fee loans, again, the same thing would be a 90-day time period. The county could waive all the penalties and interest on any expired impact fee loan accounts. Credit would be given for any principal payments made to date, or secondarily to establish a 12-month period during which the county will waive 90% of all penalties and interest. Credit will be given for those payments made to date. In this case, there's a longer time period. Working with the county attorney's office, we're told that liens that are in excess of 20 years can't be pursued. And so we would then, moving forward, try to make something in a policy and to have staff be able to, at the 19-year period, be able to reach out to those property owners to work out some sort of mechanism prior to the 20-year expiration. So that's for the...
Excuse me, Madam Chair. So Vinny, on that 20-year thing, Dylan, reading the backup, from what I gathered, is that we can foreclose on a lien very similar to the mortgage foreclosure process, but only for 5 years. And then once the lien is older than 5 years, the next 15 years is collectible but not foreclosable.
That is
And then at 20 years, it just falls off and we can't do anything.
That is absolutely correct.
So Vinny, to the last bullet point, don't we want a policy to implement action prior to the 5-year period? Because it seems to me if somebody gets past 5 years, then they're good. I mean, because they just wait for 15 more years and it falls off and they don't have to settle, they don't have to agree to anything with us. So I would think we want some type of action before the 5-year foreclosure window expires, would be my recommendation, because then we actually have some leverage, and not that I'm saying I think we should go charging forward and foreclose everybody, but I think it gives us more leverage to negotiate something to get payments moving or something like that. So I would like to see that third bullet to avoid the 5-year situation and to make some type of settlement offer when liens reach 4 years of age or something like that. Again, keep preserving our ability to do something about it. But,
I would agree with that.
okay.
And it might apply for the next one as well. Again, the 90-day time period on the first option. We did have a little bit of a different mechanism if someone chose to do the 12-month. We looked at a 25% fee increase. So if you look at your agenda item on page 5 of 7, the original assessment amount was just over $1,900. The 90-day option would be similar to what someone would have paid over a 10-year option at that time, which was 9.75%, about $3,100, give or take. And then the 12-month option would be, if they spread those payments out, there'd be a 25% on top of the base to bring it close to $3,871. So that was the second item, so that we wouldn't have someone who's just waited a long period of time paying less than someone who was part of the assessment process by completely waiving some of all the penalties and interest. And so that was something that board has been presented to the board for review, and staff recommends. And then I think, to your point, Commissioner, direct staff at a 5-year or 4.5 or 4-year term to work with the property owners prior to that 5-year expiration before we lose our ability to foreclose. And so that is what is staff recommending to be able to move forward with the amendments as mentioned by Commissioner O'Brien.
And just, Dylan, if I may, a question, just because, so we just had the Shadowbrook assessment come up, and there's one property owner that was opposed. So assuming we proceed with that and go forward with the project, I assume that that property owner will receive an assessment from us. Now, I think the mortgage foreclosure is you can't foreclose on someone's homesteaded property. Is that correct or not?
I will take a look at that again, but yeah, it sounds about right, but let me double check on that.
Okay. So we still are, in my mind, our hands are still tied a little bit. I mean, if someone doesn't want to pay that assessment.
My understanding is that utility liens trump mortgages.
Right, but again, does the foreclosure law allow you to foreclose on a homesteaded property, I think is the question.
I believe, I'm sorry.
So there's a little, and I'll do a little bit more research on this, but there's going to be a slight difference between like your utility charge, which is, there may or may not be a slight difference between your utility charge, which is your monthly water bill, versus an assessment lien that got put on, and certainly we will make sure we're sort of dotting our I's and crossing our T's depending on which process, and if they're combined. We will, just slight subtle difference.
Okay,
I think that we have more wiggle room in these types of foreclosures than you would with a mortgage. So I'm not sure about the homestead, because I believe some of the cities have foreclosed on properties that have been homesteaded.
And if it's one of the ones with regards to, what I think it's off the top of my head, like I think it's like 15763, then yeah, those are ones we are equal to a mortgage, equal to everybody with regards to those fees. I just want to make sure before we do anything that the assessments and the impact fee loans have the same sort of level of.
Okay. And again, I just want to reiterate, it's not my goal to go out and foreclose everybody that's a utility customer account, but I think we need to protect our ability to have some leverage in the negotiation to get them from a non-paying to a paying status, so.
And one of the other issues that I think Vincent raises in the staff report that we had worked on was we had a property where the 20 years had ran, and then what we had recorded on that property was a notice to future property owners, please be aware that if you buy this property, since there's no impact fee loan that's still on there, you're going to have to pay all the connection charges and the other connection fees that we have, which was kind of our warning to the next person. We're still going to be able to collect our money when the next person comes in.
Okay.
And that's something we're still wanting to work with and continue.
So again, that's staff recommendation, and we will make the changes as recommended by the board and then bring something back in more formal terms once we do our research. So I'm available for any questions that the board may have at this time.
Are there any questions for Mr. Burke? Yes, Commissioner Zork.
On the residential structures that had a count of 80 with 170 ERUs of water, are all those actively, are any of those properties on a potential condemnation list, or are they fully good habitable structures, or are they abandoned, delinquent?
So, because there are so many structures and because we are so limited in staff, we actually picked a random subset of those that had quote-unquote structures on them, and I think we narrowed it down to 10. I don't know if those were deemed to be condemned or not. We can check with code enforcement, but we did do our due diligence to say, okay, how many of them are connected? And we found one of those connected, so 10% of the ones that we just randomly looked at that had been illegally connected, if you will, that were supposedly shut off in our system. I'd have to get back with you to see how many of these structures are condemned with code enforcement.
Okay.
I don't have that figure at this point, but the ones that we had checked were just, again, a random subset of those that were on here.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Find out.
Commissioner Fletcher? No. So, Vinnie, are you looking for us to make a decision regarding the 90-day or the 24-month period for both options?
And we would still have to come back to codify that 90-day period and bring something back to the board based on the policy decisions today.
Okay. Does anybody have any feelings on that?
I'm good with the two options, the 90-day or the 12-month. I think it gives somebody a little flexibility in how they get paid up, so I'm good with that. The only big change I had was to go from the 20-year thing to the 4 or 5-year thing.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
So, do you need a formal motion just to tentatively approve this going forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information. It certainly is in the recommendation of the agenda item with respect to the changes that were talked about for the impact fee and for the assessments for the 5-year or prior to the 5-year term.
So I will go ahead and make the motion that we authorize staff to come back with an ordinance at a public hearing, and it will adopt the proposed 90-day and 12-month time period payment options. And the one change is develop a policy looking at a 4-year window instead of the 19-year window as presented.
Second.
All right, that's a motion by Commissioner O'Brien with a second by Commissioner Zork. Is there any further discussion? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And with that, we will move on to Solid Waste Disposal District. Amendment number 2 to Work Order number 32 to Kimley Horn for Household Hazardous Waste and Recycling Transfer Facility Design.
Madam Chair, move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Fletcher with a second by Commissioner Zork. Any further discussion? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, the only comment I will make is I think that this design is going to be much more beneficial for everybody, and I'm glad we're going ahead and doing it now rather than after the building has been built. So with that, there's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And if there is nothing else for the good of the order, don't forget we have a special call meeting on the 28th. We stand adjourned.